My name is Sumaya Omar. I'm a Tech Policy Fellow at Lawyers Hub and one of the conveners of Africa Law Tech. Thank you so much for still being in the room at the end of the day. So I want to make this panel really short and sweet, and so I'll break it up to 3 different questions. Number 1, I'll let all our very distinguished panelists introduce themselves and tell us the work they do, and then I'll ask them a question related to innovation, knowledge management, and innovation and tricks and tools for lawyers. And then we'll finally have a concluding word where they'll give us just a minute of what they think about innovation and what are their closing remarks on this panel. So just to begin with, innovation is very key, and it's part of the SDG 16 together with Article 48 in Kenya, and that enables access to justice. So we need to find ways as lawyers and techies to find innovative solutions to enable access to justice. And so just to begin, I'm just going to give Chioma the mic to introduce herself, and then we can do that for everyone.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Chioma Ihagwara. I represent Legium Lawyered, the business developer. Yeah, okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Ridwan. I lead the privacy and data protection team at TechHive Advisory in Nigeria. TechHive is a technology advisory firm with key focus area on privacy, data protection, cybersecurity, startup advisory, and policy and research.
Hi everyone, my name is Greg. I'm a software engineer. I recently began getting interested and involved in access to the law about 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I now run a nonprofit organization that digitizes African legislation for public access.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Longet Terer. I'm a lawyer, and I work in public agency known as the National Council for Law Reporting that is charged with digitizing and disseminating Kenya's public legal information. So that is case law, laws, statutes, gazette notices, etc.
Hi everyone, my name is Gerald Abila from Uganda. I've been doing legal tech since 2008, and I've seen the sector change and develop. I'm best known for an organization I started called Barefoot Law that provides free legal advice using technology tools. These days I choose to focus on an area called legal futurism that sort of goes into the future and comes up with policies to advise us on how to get there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to all the panelists. So I'll just start with the real one, all the way from Nigeria. I know you formed TechHive recently, and that's an advisory firm, and you do a lot of work when it comes to data protection and cybersecurity. So in just 1 minute, can you let us know how law firms in Kenya, or generally Africa, can find ways to innovate, especially with the changing landscape in cybersecurity in Africa?
All right, thank you. Yeah, so the first thing is we need to understand that law firms, with the way they operate, actually holds one of the most important information about the people they provide services for. So whether you provide services to individuals or you provide services to corporations, for example, you hold really valuable assets, and this valuable asset is becoming more important to the people on the other side, for example. And we've seen instances where competitions actually go after, competitions to an organization actually go after law firms. Increasingly, we're seeing law firms who are becoming victims of data breaches, security incidents, and all of that. So essentially, for so many law firms, and even during my days working in a law firm, many of them don't see themselves as actually holding some of these very important things, and therefore there's a need to there's a definite need to put security measures in place. So also, the issue of privacy and data protection is fast becoming a thing, and it's really important for law firms to see the personal information that they hold or personal data that they hold to as something very valuable, and they need to put both technical and organizational measures in place to make sure they are both compliant, they are both safeguarding their infrastructure, and also safeguarding the interest of the clients which they provide services to.
Thank you so much, Ridwan. So I'll just move next to Chioma. You started Legume Law. What was the need for innovating such a service in your country?
Oh, okay. First of all, I should tell you what Legume Lawyer do.
Definitely.
We provide services both to individuals and to the legal profession. To individuals in the sense whereby we try to sensitize them on the rights which they possess, breaking down the legal diction into the simplest possible term so that it will be easy for them to know what they're expected to do and the rights which they should or which are supposed to be protected. Then for the legal profession, for the legal profession, we provide services as regards to education, community, marketplace in the sense whereby we, individuals who are writers can publish their articles and get due credits in regards to traction and financial credit. The whole idea of creating Legume was because, to be honest, I never wanted to practice law. I never saw myself practicing the law. I saw so many injuries attached to it. Being or doing that which you know would hurt another person or would affect another person in a negative manner. That is not me. People hurt every day, but they do not have the access to protect themselves. And when it's a legal problem, the damage can go a very, 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 very long way and not only affect you, but affect those around you. So why are legal services that expensive? Try as much as possible to reduce the costs, to make it accessible to the middle class and to the lower class. That's one. Try to, the second issue is, sorry, I'm a bit jumbled. Okay. The second issue is that unless you are aware of a problem, you'll never recognize it as one. Unless you are aware that your right is being infringed upon, you would never know and you'll not push to enforce it. So you tell them what they need to know, and then you provide an avenue for them to enforce it.
Thank you so much, Shoma. That was really deep. Moving to the other side of the stage, Gerald, so you started Barefoot Law in Uganda, and you're one of the most innovative lawyers I've ever met in my life. What do you think needs to be done to help lawyers understand the need to integrate innovation in their daily work?
Follow the money. It's that simple. Just show lawyers how innovation will lead to a reduction in their costs and give them a competitive edge, and they'll come. You don't need anything more than that.
Well, I just love how sincere my panel today is. Moving to Greg. So Greg, you started something very legendary in Africa, and that's actually all throughout the world. And in your work and in your space, what do you think is the role of techies getting to understand more about the law?
I think, yeah, it's a good topic based on, if you think of what we just spoke about in the previous panel, in terms of what should lawyers learn to program. In most major professions in the world, lawyers, accountants, auditors, doctors, etc., it's regulated. If you do something that's illegal or against regulation, you can lose your right to practice that profession. Software is not like that at all. And I think as a software engineer, I don't like the fact that software engineers are seen as the be-all and end-all, these amazing people. In fact, there are big problems with the software engineering community when it comes to doing things that are illegal. Because they don't know better. So I think there's a great opportunity for lawyers to teach techies what the law means, right? As I say, the industry is unregulated. I can do something if I'm a programmer at Facebook or anywhere. I don't want to highlight Facebook, programmer anywhere. I can do something without absolutely any idea of the legal consequences. And if that turns out to be illegal or something, I can go to the next company and do exactly the same thing again. It doesn't matter. And I think this is going to become a bigger and bigger problem over the next few years, and I think it is crucial that the legal profession works with the technical profession to try and understand how to mitigate these problems, because we're already seeing it has major impacts on human rights, democracies, and that sort of thing. So I would love to see there more sort of two-way interaction between techies and lawyers helping techies understand their responsibilities and teaching them what they need to know about the law.
Thank you so much, Greg, for that. So at this juncture, if you haven't checked out our website at Lawyers Hub, we are a community of lawyers who are exactly doing what Greg has mentioned. So we are trying to create a nexus between techies and lawyers and creating a community that can look at the intersection of law and tech. So please check our website and look at all the amazing work we do. On that note, I'm going to give the mic to Longet, who is the CEO of Kenya Law. And Kenya Law has received numerous awards in terms of the innovation work. So maybe he can just tell us in 1 minute what he feels is the role of knowledge management in innovation, or how do they intersect, and how has that worked for your organization so far?
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, this is a really wonderful topic. And even when I was invited here, I thought, well, how very appropriate that we should be trying to see how we can bring together the legal and the technological worlds so that they can work together. Maybe just a bit of background in terms of legal information. I think we all appreciate that for a long time it's never really been accessible. So I think in terms of knowledge management, even before we get to the point of saying we want to manage that knowledge that we have within the legal profession, there's a great need to actually make it accessible. And just to paint a picture for all of us, just how much information is out there. In our jurisdiction, that is Kenya, in this case, we've been able to digitize about 140,000 judicial decisions. In terms of legislation, we have more than 35,000 pages of legal text. So that is just legislation alone. Kenya Gazette, going back all the way to 1900. So there's a lot of information. And so even as we are trying to manage this information, we found that it's really important, or rather it's actually foundational to actually digitize that information. So what we've been able to do is then digitize that information to make it fast accessible, to make it available for anyone who needs it. And going forward, then trying to drill down to make that information a bit more useful so that it's more searchable. You can have, if it's highly searchable, you can use and reuse it. You can have better data mining from that information. So in terms of knowledge management, then we've been able to use a lot of technology, and I'm glad Greg has talked a bit about that. Yeah. So really it's all this legal information and overlaying technology on top of it so that it can make it more useful. It can make it more beneficial for the legal profession and for everyone else. As we do all this, of course, we appreciate that a lot of this legal information is actually public information. So in the first place, it should actually be available for anyone who needs to see it, to access it. It's not been the case previously, but of course this is changing. And I think that is the exciting thing about technology and law, that technology has democratized the legal profession, has made information available. And so for us, we're really excited about what technology is doing, and we look forward to databases that speak to each other. Information that is, we talk about big data and being able to capitalize on that. So all of that, I think, is really critical. So there's a big opportunity for the legal profession to capitalize on technology so as to better use the information, the public legal information that is actually available.
Thank you so much for that. So just to conclude this really amazing panel that has talked about many deep issues, from following the money from Gerald all the way from Uganda, and Shoma, who said that she did not want to practice law. I love that, really honest. So I'm just going to give you guys 1 minute to give a concluding parting shot on what work you do, and if you had one thing to tell an 18-year-old who's trying to join the law profession, what would you tell them?
Okay, so by the way, I'm also a lawyer, but I mean, I'm doing something completely different now. So for me, I think as individuals, we need to do a lot more beyond just what's on the surface. During one of the sessions, there was a question about if anyone read the terms of use of the Wi-Fi a lot of people were connected to. So essentially what I'm saying is there are tools, we need to go beyond just the bare minimum and do a lot more for ourselves in safeguarding what we do. And as an organization, as a law firms too, we need to do a lot more in terms of securing some of these, securing our infrastructure, basically. I mean, it's no longer news. Big top-tier law firms, without mentioning names, have been part of a number of investigations in my country where I come from. 2 incidents involving law firms are now fell victim of data breach. And these are things that goes into your baseline too. So we need to understand some of these things. What advice will I give an 18-year-old? I mean, just grow up in peace and you can figure out life later. It's never that straight anyway.
Thank you. Chioma?
My advice would be, as individuals, we owe a duty of care to ourselves, to each other. And as lawyers, we are supposed to protect everybody else. If we fail, the world is going to crash. So we should try as much as possible to enlighten ourselves, to make ourselves better, and to make it easy for legal access. It's not about the fees, it's not about the money. But we studied law for a reason, which is to protect and to enforce. So that's what we should be doing.
Greg?
Thanks. I'm coming from the tech world, and the innovation in the tech world moves at a frightening pace. And then coming to the legal world, where innovation in the legal world moves at a glacial pace. And innovation in the government world, I think, moves even more slowly. And that causes friction, right? And that friction is not going away anytime soon. And that friction, there's huge opportunity there. There's opportunity for business, there's opportunity for innovation. There's also opportunity for manipulation and for people to, their rights to be infringed and that sort of thing. And I think it's up to lawyers, it's up to techies, it's up to rights people and policy writers and everyone to try and work out how to balance those two conflicting forces. And I would put out there, I see a lot of jackets in this room. I'm wearing a jacket even though I'm a techie, because lawyers only listen to you, law people only listen to you if you're wearing a jacket, right?
Really?
I encourage you to psychologically take off that jacket, right? Step out of your comfort zone. You're already doing that because you're here. Step out of that comfort zone, interact with these people who are disrupting the world and see how can you manage that, how can you support that where necessary, how can you restrain it where necessary. Because that evolution, that change, that disruption is going to happen whether you like it or not. It's already happening. And I think only by bridging those worlds can we effectively hope to do this effectively without essentially our democracies crumbling. Thanks.
Can I get an amen?
If I was to advise a young person studying law, well, first I would actually tell them that they should follow their passion. So whether they want to study law or study whatever other subject, whatever field they want to get into, I think it's important for people to follow their passion. And that, of course, comes out with time. And as they do so, to give it 100%. But most importantly, I think it's to acknowledge that society will appreciate when people solve problems, when they give a great service. And it doesn't matter what field you're in. If you're able to give it 100%, solve a problem that's within society, you will always be appreciated, irrespective of whichever profession or track you decide to choose. So that would be my advice.
And most importantly, use Kenya law always. Yes.
That's part of finding
the law. Okay.
In my closing remarks, my advice to an 18-year-old who wants to be a lawyer, specialize in space law. I mentioned this on the first day, and I'll say it again, specialize in space law. It's virgin territory, and it's going to make you billionaires, probably. Secondly, something you should know is it's always been a challenge measuring impact when it comes to looking at access to justice or the law from a demand side, which is where most of us play in. We faced that challenge for many years, but last week thankfully, the UN Statistics Office released a new indicator, 16.33. Go and read about it because it's going to influence you going forward. Finally, if there's something you should take away from here, it's this. We've been innovating, or at least at the intersection of law and technology, since 2008. We've reached a point where the technology has sort of stopped. You can't innovate to points beyond which you can't reach something like consciousness, and yet legal decisions are imperfect. So you need to start going backwards towards thinking of innovating doctrine. So we've reached a point where we focused so much on innovating the law from a tech perspective, we've ignored innovating the law from a doctrine perspective. So we need to go back as lawyers and focus more on innovating from the doctrine. Otherwise, we are going to reach a point where we can't proceed anymore. And I hope next year when we are back, when Lawyers Hub invites us back here,
Of course.
we'll be discussing a bit more on innovating doctrine. Because I think 5-10 years from now, we won't have a sector called legal tech. It's like emails. You can't say I specialize in emails as a lawyer. It's just a tool for delivery. So a lot of this is going to be reduced to evidence. But we need to focus on innovating doctrine. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful panel. We're so glad you could be able to join us today. And thank you for the audience for listening to us.